We're live. This
Hey.
is hey, this is Inner Healing Transformation Summit, and I'm here with Gogo, her luxurious Africa as well, and we are talking the reluctant healer existing with tension. Hi, Gogo.
Hi, Gogo Togozani. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm excited to have you here.
Thank you so much. Thank you for holding the space for me. Thank your ancestors for connecting with my ancestors to allow us to have this conversation.
Right? I have been paying gratitude to them. I'm like, oh my God, you guys have been working overtime, connecting with everyone's ancestors to make this possible, because how it all came to be, it's just so beautiful. How all of you guys said yes, yes, yes. It's really beautiful. So thank you to ancestors too.
No, thank you. It's a beautiful space that you're holding for people. I just came back from a trip to Germany with my baba and my other siblings. And what I realized is people are in a lot of pain. We're dealing with people who are academics from all over the world who are talking about transformation, but how do we create lasting change with this transformation? And when the drum was beat for the people lost their minds. People allowed themselves to let go and they started dancing. And then I realized that even in that space, in every space, a lot of people need healing. So it's important that we always take time out from our daily lives and what we do and come to something like you're holding now, the space that you're holding, so that we allow ourselves to heal so we can fully show up as people. So this is very important.
Yeah, it's definitely important. I have found healing myself just holding this conversation. My spirit has been shifted from this conversation, and I know that I have healed layers of my pain that I have not been tapping into. But when you are talking to someone, you can just release that block, release that pain, just from understanding, just from exploration, from witnessing. So I love conversations and I see the power of conversations, and I'm always grateful to hold space like this.
Absolutely. May they bless you so that you continue as well.
Yeah, I receive. So let's talk about all of this, and we use your story as a vessel to explore this. And so we begin with your story so that we can go along with this conversation of existing with tension.
Okay. So for me, being a reluctant healer means that the way I was raised to achieve. I was raised to be a perfect child, and that you go to school. Once you go to school, you get a job. And in getting that job, you're going to push yourself and you're going to be the best that you can be in corporate. So I've worked hard academically. I've pushed myself. I did my law degree. I've got a master's in law. I've got an MBA. And I was in the middle of my PhD when life then called me to something different that I was not prepared for. So I love using my mind. I love being smart. I love being able to solve problems. I like complex problems. My job on a daily basis was to close deals. The biggest deal I ever closed was R1 billion deal. So I loved that. And I was able to use my mind and determine what the next step was going to be. Then this calling hit me, and then it's like, oh gosh, okay, what is this now that I cannot control? Nobody ever taught me that, because as we grow up with stories, we grow up with things that we are told. We are told that Christianity is the way. We are told that we need to be ambitious, that we push for things and we get those things. So when this comes and disrupts, how do you make peace with it? And I think for me, that was the reluctance around, it's something I can't control. It's something that I have not called to myself. I might have been born with it. My family may have seen the signs, because what would happen is if a person was sick, I'd be able to hold them, take the illness onto myself and purge it. But I did not know that it was being gifted. And then I was just told to be careful, just be careful. Nobody explains that to you. I had a dream when I was 16 about Mbuya Nehanda, who was very instrumental as a spirit medium. in terms of helping with the liberation struggle in Zim. And she had a conversation with me in my dreams. And in that dream, she put Zulu beads on me. And I didn't understand. And even when I explained it to people, nobody would tell me what that meant. And then that meant that later in life, I was going to initiate Zulu, even though I'm Shona. But you see, all those things, all those stories that I had in my life, nobody ever told me that there is this aspect of African mysticism that is beautiful, that can be embraced. All we're taught is you go to school, you learn, and you become 1, 2, 3, and you keep pushing towards that. So this was very, very unfamiliar territory. And when it hits you hard, and I'm away from family because my family is scattered all over the world because of the economic situation. And there was nobody really to speak to because they didn't understand it and they thought it was evil and they thought that I was not well. So I got lucky in that the person that I went to ask for help, that was Gogo Ndlanzi, who's my baba, that I went to ask for help, was the only person who took me through this journey. Because I've understood some people to hop from one person to the next, and that causes confusion. So I think I was lucky in that my ancestors allowed me to be grounded in this one person who then showed me the way and which way to go. But still, even within that, I'm still saying, I'm a lawyer. No, this is who I am. I'm not a healer. How am I going to hold the space? And how am I going to be barefoot? What does this mean? You know, it was still a shock, and it still is a shock to the system in many ways, because many beautiful and wonderful things are happening, but I don't have control over it. It's just me allowing myself to open up and allowing spirit to work.
No, I resonate with that. I resonate because I'm also a lady of the mind.
Yes.
My intellect, I defined myself for a very long time with my intellect, and even being driven to achieve, to accomplish things, to build things, to start things. That was always how I expressed myself. And for me, my story is different in that I think I knew early that I had the calling, and and I was very drawn to this calling. But no one was telling me, like, I wasn't getting confirmation that this is actually really happening to me. But I just had my own doubts at a very young age, and I did my own research. And I had, where I would collapse growing up, and no one could ever find out why I kept having this illness that is not diagnosable. That's the word. We can't. Yeah, they couldn't diagnose. Yeah, yes. And so I was 17 when, and my best friend's mom said, there's something going on here. It's not, you can't, having all these things. You need to talk to your mom about what's happening. And that's when I asked her what's going on, and that's when she also told me that she's also had this illness, and when she was 17, she was told she had the calling, and for her, she didn't feel ready to accept the calling. Yes. So I knew by 17 years old that I have this calling, but because my mom was reluctant, I was also reluctant, and so I went 10 years of now just exploring spirituality on this broad perspective, in my life was filled up with exploration of spirituality. But I knew my heart was never really completely settled because I wasn't exploring my calling, I wasn't answering my calling. And I just always thought something is not complete, something is not well with me, and until I had to go to my mom, like, and this spirit, my ancestors kept saying that it's your mom, you have to, but your mom is your teacher, but she's not doing a thing. So how could she, she will take you to a teacher, how would she take me to my teacher? And so I got a couple, 2-3 years, like that's when I really started saying, Mom, I really need to do this. I know that things are not going the way they're supposed to, because this is where I'm supposed to be. And for me, I think my spirit was drawn to the healing arts because I even studied psychology, and my entire career has been about healing and about conversation. But it was always just not yet complete. Something because I wasn't tapping into spirit with a full heart. I was like one foot
Yes.
out, So I was doing
Yes.
the dance floor, and my and sister were like, "Are you serious? Can you just get serious and just come so we begin work?" You know.
So did they disrupt how you were studying? How did those messages come for you?
Uh, they did. I was supposed to go do my master's in psychology, in fact, but they just
Mm-hmm.
some things just never moved. I even went to India seeking spirituality, and I lived in India for 2 years. And
Mm.
the work that I was doing there, I was drowning. Just wherever I would go, I would drown, and I would always say, no, this is not a thing, this is not a thing. So I went through periods where I was just moving through different spaces, trying to explore what my soul mission is. Um,
Mm-hmm.
uh, Although I knew what it was, that was the painful part for me. I knew what it was, but
Mm.
I just didn't have the courage to go to it because of fear of
Mm.
where will I put my belief system, or the one that I grew up with, of Christ consciousness. Because
Yes.
this is what I want to talk about us, to talk about just like how, you know, African spirituality, the way it's understood in the mainstream, the way we grow up knowing about it, it's not seen as this, holistic, magical, and authentic and normal way of connecting with spirit, with God. It's seen in a different lens,
Absolutely.
which was the part that
Absolutely.
was terrifying for me. And
Mm.
currently I'm like, decolonize African spirituality because of
Mm-hmm.
that I went through with dealing with my fear of what will people say, what does this mean, how do I integrate this with also my belief in God, as if that's separate.
Yes.
But yes, so how have you been going through that journey as well yourself, um of growing up with the fear of this work that we're doing and now doing it? And
Mm.
mm,
Yeah. I think you've touched on something very important, colonialism.
mm,
Like in Zim, we were colonized by the British, right? So everything that was us was demonized. Everything that was black, the way we worshipped, like I don't even remember. And I mean, we applaud anybody who can speak English, right? And we look down on people that cannot speak English. So even in those little things, we're sending around subtle messages that, being black and carrying on as being black is something to be looked down on. Because I even remember when I was first getting my calling and I could hear people coming through and whispering things to me, and they were talking on the level of even government before we even get to the individual levels around how do our African governments behave. If they're behaving and all they look at is democracy and the systems of democracy that we've borrowed from other nations, what does it mean for us when they don't reflect what it really means to be African? Like we've had wars, right? And there's been bloodshed. And when that has happened, have we done cleansings of our nations so that we can start with a new path? Like I really strongly believe that Zim will keep going around in circles if we don't come to our spiritual base. We've
mm,
had a change in government, but nothing has changed because we still have not cleansed ourselves. We still have not grounded ourselves in tradition. So, whatever that is, whether we fear that we're not going to get economic support by being more for ourselves or whatever, I don't know what it is. But we also need to start decolonizing those institutions and the governments. Then it can filter down to the people as well. But for me, my greatest fear has been the fear of being lonely,
mm,
because this journey is very lonely.
mm,
So I've had to sort of form a new spiritual family. The new spiritual family is around where I initiated, the people I initiated with, the people who initiated before me and after me. And that has become my spiritual family that allows me to be grounded. And of late, with the patience that I get, and with the community like you formed, like with yourself, that's where that new family comes, where I can go and sense make what is happening in my own life. But with my family, because they don't understand, since I took on the journey, they've sort of distanced themselves from me. And I remember the loneliest part of my life is when I spent a year initiating. And the day that I came back home is opening my apartment door and there's nobody on the other side. So it's like the sense of you've brought yourself home and there's nobody else there for you. So for me, that is a constant pain for me. And I know with time, Spirit is going to take care of it. When it's time, things will happen. Also, the fact that I had to initiate away from home, you know, the simplest things around when people get visitors. I never realized, like, because I never got visitors till my friends started visiting me. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is refreshing. This is nice. This takes you away from the pain of initiation and pushing through and that birth of initiation. And for little moments in a week, you can be yourself. You can restore yourself, because it's very hard to initiate and it's very hard to be a healer when you carry pain, because you can never look at people and just see their pain. So there's a lot of healing that needs to take place. So for me, that fear of loneliness, that fear of being alone and people not understanding, that fear of I've always been the go-getter in corporate and people have known me flying to China, flying to Germany, flying to different places to make deals. And then all of a sudden now, my brain doesn't work. Who am I now? What is my identity away from my mind? And it's not you, like you walk around trying to justify to people that, well, you know, I am spirited, you know, I have these ancestors inside of me. One, people don't care. Two, people don't understand. And three, it doesn't serve you in corporate. So you start finding a new meaning for yourself within that loneliness, within that fear, and with being away from corporate. And then you start processing that. And that for me is the tension of how do you get comfortable with the person, with all the knowledge that you have. For instance, yourself, you've got this psychology degree, right? You can't separate that from who you are. But how do you make your practice better with that knowledge that you have, and to marry the two, but always remembering that spirit comes first?
Yeah. Yeah, we were talking about
I
this.
don't know if that answered what you asked. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. We were talking about this, that for me,
Yeah.
there is a huge fear of losing your identity, you know, when the calling comes and you answer it. Yeah, and I had a lot of battles with that as well, because I think like you, for me, I really was even almost proud that I know so much knowledge, you know, from psychology, from metaphysics, from just like also being a person who's always created projects and brands and so on, you know, and
okay, all right.
yes.
All
So
right.
yeah, as
I
I was
can hear you
saying,
loud and clear.
okay, yeah. So I was saying that, you know, like my identity was all these things that I'm able to achieve and all these ways that I've created my life. And even being a psychologist, it didn't really mean that I was easily understood or easily accepted. I mean, for me, I've always been a weird child, you know, and I always thought strange and different from other people. And I think that other people felt that. So I literally really struggled with, you know, being in a tribe of friends, being just like moving through life, in even though I was in the life of, you know, achievements, in the life of doing things in this very materialistic way, I still struggled with it. And I always felt that people could see this girl is a little bit strange. And now that I'm a healer, I'm really, really strange. And so that really used to terrify me, because I was like, they were scared of me when I was just a psychologist. Now what are they going to think, you know? So that was where my reluctance was, because
yes.
human beings really love to belong. You know, we want to belong. We want to be seen. We want to belong to
Absolutely.
you know, we want to feel loved. But at the same time, even as a healer, you have your own personality, you have your own interests, the loves, especially for us who, in the modern world, we are first in the modern world, living the modern world of social media and everything else. And then you have to kind of like retreat back a bit to connect with spirit and then come back to it. And, sometimes you don't know how to really settle in with this with your your true self now
Yes.
that you have claimed, and the way that you used to be, and how to navigate the world now. For me, I'm still currently exploring that, still figuring that out, because I mentioned to you the other day that my spirit teacher was telling me what you're saying, that I have to choose, to work for spirit entirely. And for me, I was like, but my psychology is not
Mm-hmm.
in it's not at this point. It happen My knowledge of it, my practice of it happens almost unconsciously, because I've been practicing and using it for so many years. It's like I see the world through my psychology lens. I'm always people
Mm-hmm.
I'm always psychoanalyzing them, but I don't even mean it.
Mm.
It just happens because I was trained in that field and I used it for a long time.
Yes.
So when I was told, and that's also where my struggle is, to learn to
Mm.
surrender to spirit, because spirit doesn't really need your mind. In fact, your mind can interfere.
True. Yes. And that's the whole process of initiation, allowing you to let go of your mind, of who you think you are, and to birth this new person. Yes. True.
Mm.
Very true. Wow. Like, it's very important, because I think also what brings about the reluctance is a lack of self-trust, or a lack of trust around what you're hearing, because we keep getting these messages around, you're meant to be a healer. You know this deep down inside, right? Because you're born with this. For me, maybe for people, what they might struggle with is, how do you know when you've got a calling, especially when the world around you doesn't raise you to know that?
Mm.
Like, I'm very envious of my Baba's children, because they've been raised in this, and they know who they are, and they know what their own strengths are. So their struggle would not be like our struggle. Their struggle will be something else. It will be just, how do they get to the next level of their lives, because they're comfortable with who they are, they're comfortable with spirit, and they're raised to be great Africans. So how do we find that great African within ourselves, so that we know that the two are not separate? Because for me, I think sometimes when we separate academia and spirit, we're doing ourselves a disservice. Now, when people ask me legal problems, right, I'm first able to tap into spirit to say, but have you fixed 1, 2, 3? This is not the first time that has happened. Can you see that you're in a loop? You're in a pattern of doing destructive things. Fix yourself. But this is how you resolve your legal issue. I mean, if we work like that, where we don't leave spirit behind, where we don't leave ourselves behind, and understand that we're this one continual whole, we would make such great progress. Like, for you, always knowing that who you are as a psychologist, and then infusing spirit into that, imagine how much more uplifting your work is.
It's really been uplifting. I have found I'm still working and figuring out the flow, but I where I am right now, I tap into spirit. I know that's my resource. That's where I start everything. And I bring in the psychology as a way of
Mm,
understanding
mm,
behavior and expanding on understanding cognition, how people think and why they think that way. But then bringing in seeing how they think from the perspective of spirit, and how we can, it's for me, I find it as a beautiful dance, because when I was practicing psychology, what I used to find missing was
mm,
I found that I we are fixing the problem that is being presented, but that's just a symptom of something bigger, and that something bigger is something that is within the inner landscape, within your spiritual self. That healing must start from soul. And I if I focus
mm,
on trying to understand why you're struggling with
absolutely.
your divorce, and we're focusing on the elements of the divorce and how you can be less angry at your partner, uh, then what's going to happen is you will feel better for 1, 2 weeks, and then you're going to go back. to how you're feeling, to the destructive behavior. And so then I didn't help, you know?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think we must also realize that the people who are being called, because I remember when I first told my work that I have a calling, they're like, no, but isn't that for people in the village? And I'm like, yeah, this is the village. This is where they find us now, because if we're in cities, this is where they're going to find us. But then that people who are educated, people who are ambitious, people who are pushing for stuff are being called. What does that mean? It means that the skills that we possess are needed. And the only difference is you put spirit first, then everything else comes after. And for me, this is a lesson that I'm also learning the hard way, because constantly I keep getting in my own way. Stupid example. We were traveling to Germany for spiritual work. Then we're going to Paris for a holiday. So when I left my Ndumba and I passed that and I said, please come with me, travel with me. And when we are in Germany, show me your way, let's do everything. But when I go to Paris, I'd like to have some fun. So it's as if I was saying, I'm going to park you when I'm in Paris, but fine, let's go together in Germany. And there were moments in Paris where things happened that were unexplained. And I felt so lonely and so left by my spirit. And I'm like, but what's happening? Then I had to come back and remember the prayer that I had said. So they're not going to force us to do stuff that we don't want to. So if you say, I don't want to be with you, it's fine. You can park them, but your life will not flow because you can't separate yourself from source energy. The moment you think you can separate yourself from source is the moment that you get lost. So this is something that I am learning. And I remember one of my spiritual siblings, Gwen, is saying to me, but remember, you undertook your Vuma Kufa, right? That I am agreeing to die of self and to be open to spirit. What does that mean? It's a commitment you make every day when you wake up, whether you like it or not, to say, Source and I are one, and I've decided to walk behind Source and allow Source to guide me through everything, because that is the way that we are able to heal as people.
Yeah. My ancestors as well, they know that I have this tendency of, when I'm doing a project like this, where I'm holding space, I tend to fall into the technicality of things and forget spirit. Like, let me make sure Zoom is working, let me make sure, and then I forget to bring in spirit in the whole process because I'm just, my mind, my intellect. So at some point last week, I even kind of like skipped my morning ritual, my morning prayer, my morning connection with spirit. And so what spirit started doing, because I have completely given my whole heart, and I told spirit, I'm here, guide me always, and let me learn, let me, do the work of spirit here. So what spirit started doing is they stopped my laptop from working until I pray. Like, it literally doesn't work. And for 3 days I will switch, and it's just like, no, connect first. Wow. You're not gonna, and it's just been so surreal to me, because I realized let me go pray. And then after I pray, it works. I literally switched it on, and I was like, but for 2 hours you're refusing. So I got that no, you don't leave us behind. We are everywhere. This space, in fact, is from us, inspired by us. So we want to be part of it, but you have to bring us here. So that's the
yes.
So I love that part.
Very true.
Yeah.
No, they do send us, gentle reminders every day to say, don't forget who we are, connect with us. And it's in the smallest little details. Like, I know when I hear something distinct and I don't want to do it, I can't walk. It's that simple. I'm not able to walk until I sit back and I say, what am I not listening to? What do I need to know? And I think for me as well, for people with a calling, you will know, you will know your little signs around when you're not connected with spirit. Because the best thing that when you find out that you've got a calling is you need to connect with your spirit, and you need to start trusting yourself in the voices that you hear. In the beginning, it's going to feel like you're making it up, but the more you trust, the more will be revealed to you, and the more that you'll actually see. And you'll see it, you'll feel it in your body. You know, gifted people have pains in different parts of their bodies. You will know. So just learn to tap into that so that you also are tuned to what your spirit wants. And then the greater the calling becomes, the greater the discomfort also becomes. So just being able to tune into that. But also remembering we're human. We're going to forget. And then they're going to give us a tap, a gentle tap, and then we forget, a harder tap, you know, till we learn to flow with spirit. But as African first, before anything else, I think it would make for better families, it will make for better workplaces, it will make for better friendships, for us to realize and to acknowledge that. And sometimes with the loneliness that comes, all great people always need to retreat. Always need to explain that. So the bigger your mission is, the bigger the fear, the bigger the loneliness, the more the temptations are going to come. So if you're able to rise and allow spirit to guide you, you'll be so amazed at the revelations that you get in your life. Like for me, I know when I'm in doubt and I come to my altar, to my msamo, and I ask for guidance, the things that come through in those moments of quiet is amazing. Like we could literally change the world by just realizing that and acknowledging that, you know. As Africans, we're amazing, but we're not fully able to, if we're not fully able to tap into our spirit, we'll never realize how great we are. Like for me, why I call my practice her luxurious healing is because I always want to wake up every day and remember to tap into source. I always want to remember that I walk with kings and queens, and that the people who walk into my healing space are also kings and queens. That these are things that we've always known how great we are. So for me, if I can create that, recreate that in my space and allow you to see that within yourself. So I do it with simple things like I try not to make patients bump into each other. So I'll have their appointments like an hour apart so that when you come in, I have enough time to sit with you uninterrupted. We can have our coffee for those who love coffee. We can have our cognac for those who love cognac, you know, whatever spirit is. Because, you know, sometimes before a patient comes, you don't understand why you're craving cigarettes, right? But it's because the people that they work with were smokers, right? So I also try to keep those little elements in my space so that I teach them how to honor the people that they work with. It's not necessarily that we should go and get drunk, but if you work with a grandfather that loved cognac, that loved whatever, champagne, you know, let me allow you to tap into that so that you realize that you are always, always walking with spirit. You know? Yeah.
I love that. I love that. I love also the idea of, you know, people also beyond coming to us as healers, also knowing that they can also heal themselves, that they can take whatever it is that they learn and they can practice at home, and that they can connect and also call in, you know, their own helping spirits, you know. And I sometimes begin with, in my act of decolonizing African spirituality, I start with helping spirits to really make you understand that it's bigger than how you imagine ancestors to be, you know, that you have access to ancestors, your lineage, ancestral lineage. You have access to your spirit guides, to your guardian angels. You have access to your totem animals, to your spirit power animals, and galactic masters. I mean, like, we have access to so many support, our energetic support, and you can tap into them. And me and you, we tap into the ancestors. You, if you are not comfortable with that, you can tap into your guardian angels, as you were taught in your religion, in your spirituality, right? And but it's all the same thing. We're talking about spirit at the end of the day, you know. And I want, so I'm always looking for us to expand African spirituality to people, and I want to give you this chance to share with us how, so that, you know, for those who are still like, what are they talking about right now, they can get a little bit of what this world is like, what we're really talking about.
So this world, like you rightfully say, is beginning trust with yourself, before you go to a healer and have somebody dictate to you that this is how you should honor spirit. You should always honor yourself and the people that you work with, and that way they'll guide you to the right person. So in African spirituality, as people, we never take the lead. We allow spirit to take the lead. In allowing spirit to take the lead, before you go see a healer, you pray or you pasha, right? You pray to God for guidance, you pasha to your ancestors so that they show you the right person with the right set of skills, that they have had a conversation with that person's ancestors so they can show you the way. We know the way. It's just that there's a lot of noise around in the world. We've been told a lot of stories. That's why we've separated ourselves from that. We grow up with totems, with our spirit animals. That we've also forgotten about that. I don't know if it's about living in concrete jungles, that we're not in touch with nature. It's important that we go to rivers to pray, to pasture. It's important that we go to mountains. We spend time in nature and disconnect from technology, because that's the only way that you're able to tap into things. Like I know every time I close my eyes, I see my spirit guide. And for me, for the longest time, it was a very strange thing. A wolf? I'm like, but there are no wolves in Africa. How do I have a wolf as a spirit guide? And then somehow I thought back to Native Americans, and I'm like, but wow, spirit is so interconnected. There are no boundaries. A lot of us gifted people work with Egyptian spirits as well. So we're able to tap a lot into ancient. So it's not just thinking about the people that you're related to by blood. It's very expansive around whatever we're able to call into. A lot of people think that when you are like us, you don't pray. No, you walk with this Junua, you walk with guiding spirits. I walk with the Catholic nun. I love the Catholic Church. I was raised in the Catholic Church. At some point, I went to 3 convents because I thought that was my calling. But I know my spirit was searching for a small part of myself. It's not the whole part of myself. Like even here, I have Mother Mary. I love her intercessions. I love my blood spirits. There is a lot. There's a lot more, and it's not for me to spell it out, but people must sit with it for themselves and just explore and find out. It is so much more expansive than we are taught, than what we are told. And for me, the more we separate ourselves from that, the more our thinking will always be limited, and we'll never truly find ourselves as African spiritualists. There is so much more to explore, really.
The biggest takeaway that I know and that I took from all the conversations with the healers, the speakers here, and that I hope that everyone also got, is our pain and the struggles that we have are mainly because we have a distorted perception of reality, of ourselves, of spirit. It is a perception, yes, but there is some part of how you're perceiving it that is not nurturing, that is not empowering, that is in a way asking you to abandon some part of yourself, whether that's your spirit self, or that's your empathetic self, or your gifted self, or the ancestors. And that's where the pain comes, because the thing is, your soul knows, and your soul knows what it needs to feel nourished, to feel well, and it has a way of like knocking until you answer. It will keep knocking, and the knocks will come as chaos, in your life, distractions in your life, like this unrest, and so when there is unrest, there is a need to ask, where is my soul disconnected? Where is my soul not being nourished? Where am I disconnected from spirit? And spirit can be whatever you want from your own perception, what spirit is, whatever words you use. But what this life calls for is that we must be connected to spirit, because we are spiritual beings, having a human experience. So, like you were saying, when we speak of Africa and I was just thinking of even this conversation of existing with tension. It's something that the whole collective, focusing on our continent, we are currently existing with tension. It's existing and it's manifesting in our governments, in the things that are happening in each country, because how we are collectively disconnected from spirit, and if wanting to solve these things from the human mind, we're gonna have a problem. That's why we have problems.
Yeah. And I also think for healers, it's important for us to remember that we're not just touching lives one at a time, the people that come into our practice. We almost have a duty to expand this conversation into the world, to start influencing policy, to start influencing how people are living their lives and how people perceive themselves and perceive themselves collectively, because you talk of this collective pain, that we're experiencing in Africa. How do we as healers, now expand that conversation? And for me, what you're doing is great, because it is a beginning of that. How do we allow people to be spirit? And then to go into the world and allow themselves to have spirit influence whatever they do, then to tap into their intellectual capacity, then to tap into who they uniquely are, so that they can present a different package to the world. I mean, we sit with a lot of influences in the world. We sit with a lot of people that people look up to. But what are we looking up to? It's almost like we're looking at surface level things without going into soul, without going into spirit. And maybe a part of that is, how do you make a living, and how do you allow yourself to make a big impact as a healer if you're not allowed to be a soul entrepreneur? How people always think that Sangoma's healers should be charging a certain amount, but how do we allow ourselves as well to know our worth, to know our spirit's worth, and allow ourselves to be able to charge something that will allow us to live, so that we can sit as custodians of cultures, custodians of spirit, custodians of soul healing, but still be able to make a living and be able to go on with life. Whether it's through not necessarily the work that we do in our Ndumbas, where we consult, but on the other side, the other work that we do, so that we always have guardians and custodians of who we are as Africans, and that we're able to push this agenda. It's not enough that we sit back and impact one person's life at a time. What other bigger conversation are we having outside of that? And as a person walks out of your healing space, are they walking out just healed themselves, or are they ready to also make an impact on the world, so that we've got this ongoing effect? It's very, very important. It can't end here. It can't just be one-on-one conversations. The conversation needs to be bigger, because that's how we begin to heal. That's how we begin to survive. That's how we begin to value this work, and not only see it as a burden for people who are born in certain spaces, who have a certain type of education. No, we need to bring it all together.
Oh, you're speaking to my spirit right now. I'm just like, oh my God, yes, yes, yes. There was a friend of mine who tends to trigger me, because he likes telling me that, what you have to offer and teach the world is really good, it's really important. But, sometimes when you use words like ancestors, you make people run away from what you have to teach. And it's huge, it triggers me so deeply. And I had to really, for me, first of all, heal with why it triggers me, because I felt like it was me being asked to reject myself, which is something that I've done for many, many times, and in me doing spirit work, it does require me to be honest with this work and to share it as it is. And part of now, I have made it even an intention to say this as many times as possible, even if it means that you're going to stop talking to me, because that is the beginning of, decolonizing. You have to meet the words as it is, and we must expand our knowledge of perception and understanding of the world's ancestors from the one that you currently hold, to hear what else, what else could empower you. So I had to tell him, no, I'm going to keep saying this. In fact, the more now that you've told me this, this is the only way that I will introduce myself. Well, before I used to hide behind psychology. I was like, I'm a psychologist, and then people, then they
that makes people comfortable.
Yeah, because it's still not comfortable, because they're like, so can you read my mind? And they start retrieving back and being afraid that I'm going to psychoanalyze them, but they can accept that. When I say I'm an ancestral healer, whoa, they shut down. They literally walk away, and I can see the anxiety. But it's not even the anxiety, it's not the fear of me. It's almost as if there's almost even pity. They pity me, like, oh, poor girl, so lost, and just really
the stories they've been told. Yes.
And
wow.
So it stops people from accessing spirit, because we were taught, and I can only speak of religion, that there's only one way of connecting with the spirit, of living in the kingdom of God, right? So other ways, like our ways, were seen as not valid, but not only that, but wrong and sinful and blasphemous. And I think that's where the wound is. How this work, our way, our traditions were seen as outside God. And I asked someone, but how could it be that an entire race, an entire community could be disconnected from God throughout the years, and then suddenly someone had to come and teach them how to connect with God?
Doesn't make sense.
And I also say, you want to take someone's inner power, you take that belief system, you take how they connect with that God, you take that away, and then you have crippled them. You took that essence. So it's really, for me,
it's a clever way to colonize.
Powerful, because now Malcolm X was saying, our incarceration is in the mind. The black man is now, currently, colonization is happening, like slavery is happening in our mind, and in our how we relate with our ways, our people. And they're not doing the work now. We are now doing the work of self-harm, of self-hate, of self-rejection, and it's painful.
And isn't that the reason why we're getting so many healers, coming up, so that we're able to take ourselves outside of those mindsets? I have a question for you. So if a person is asking, right, because for you to be a Sangoma, ancestral healer, it's because you are gifted and you're born with that gift, right? But what if I'm a person not meant to be a healer, but I feel this urge, I feel this urgency even to connect with spirit? How do you advise those people? Because I have a couple of friends who are like, I'm so jealous that you're a healer, I'm so jealous that you're able to do these things. I wish I had a calling. And I always say to them, there's something, though you might not sit in Ndumba and throw bones and do all those things, just because you've got this urge, there is something within you that spirit is crying out to. How do you speak to people like that for them to be able to fully come into themselves, even though they don't carry the ancestral gift?
For me, I am of the belief that everyone is their own healer, and everyone is connected to spirit. For as long as you are here, you are a spiritual being, and so you always be connected to the spiritual realm. Of course, everyone has their own soul mission, why they're here, the work they're meant to do in different parts of this collective framework that we're all in, that we're part of. But I think that everyone can connect with that, with the spirit, and they can tap into that. And maybe for you, it's not necessarily to connect with ancestors for healing other people, or get a message for other people, but to also get your own message, to commune with your own spirit, with your oversoul, with your spirit guide. That's something that I think that everyone should access, and they should do that. And so that for me, I often teach and encourage all my clients to practice stillness in the morning, to observe their dreams, to hear what their own soul is teaching them, and maybe your call is to learn to heal yourself, to heal your family. And we don't always need a healer to come do that. And I often feel like if you have that yearning, then there's something to explore it, and yours might not be something that is you are the ancestral healer, but a different kind of healer. I have connected with some clients of mine who are not necessarily healers, but their work has to do with things that are very spiritual in nature, where I will get that this soul mission is to teach compassion, and but what do you mean? I'm working in this. What does that even mean by teaching compassion? And teaching compassion in a way requires you to be connected with spirit and seeing everyone as a spiritual being, and doing the work, whether that's in an office, that's in a laptop like me, where my work is literally my laptop, my office, So you can always invite spirit. You should invite spirit all the time. It's not for healers only.
I like that, because we are all healers. We all live with our own tensions, There are moments when you feel like, no, something is wrong, and the hairs on your back stand. The more you dishonor that voice, the more you are dishonoring spirit. So, it's very important, like you're saying, to have rituals as people that we always connect. And then just because you're not a Sangoma, just because you don't connect to ancestral spirits, to hear messages for other people, it's still very, very important that you hear messages for yourself and for your family. And you'd be surprised at how much more you will achieve. And that doesn't take you away from your church routine. It just brings you to yourself and to your spirit. And everything that you do is really just in addition to that. I love that.
I don't know if it was my yoga teacher who taught me this, and it's what I use now to explain to people who are afraid of doing, say, meditation, stillness of any kind, that praying is talking to God, it's talking to the galactic masters, it's talking to spirit, right? And meditation, listening to God, listening to spirit. It's the feedback. How would you know if you just keep asking and praying, but you never listen for the message, And
absolutely,
how I understand it, that we must pray, we must also sit in stillness and hear the guidance of our own soul. Your soul is your guiding compass. It will always guide you first before any other person can guide you. So I got the idea of you practicing rituals that will connect you to spirit, even outside with a healer, outside that,
Yeah, but I also think it's very important as we do that and we get to know who we are and we practice that stillness, that we are also not sitting in judgment of other people.
Yeah.
Like you say, everybody has a soul mission, right? So the more we discover who we are, it's a journey inwards. It's not a journey of judgment to say if the next person doesn't do what you're doing, then they're wrong. You must allow yourself to grow enough that people start looking at your life and start seeing the changes that are happening in your life and thinking, oh my gosh, how did you do that? Then you invite them into your space. Then you can share with them what you're doing. Because I also find sharing too early what you're doing, whether it's affirmations, whether it's ukupahla, whether it's whatever you're doing to try to transform your life. If you brag about it, if you tell people too early, you're also going to distract yourself because they're going to give you your opinion. Allow yourself to be grounded enough and to know enough of the message that you're getting for yourself to fulfill your own soul mission. People will come to you. People will ask you. You never have to impose yourself on people. So I think we must always guide ourselves against that, because once we come up with new ideas or once we think we're on the right path, we want to drag everybody along with us on their path. But as you rightfully say, everyone's soul mission is different. What if what I've understood about me and my pain with my own mother, what we deal with, our soul missions are very, very different. Mine is to be able to heal people, and hers is to be rigidly and staunchly Christian. So now, should she move me to her side? No. Should I move her to my side? No. But we must find that space in between where we can coexist and still have that respect. And I must still have that respect as a daughter. So we must live with those tensions, and we mustn't impose ourselves on other people. Let people see our work. Let them see how we are transforming, and then invite them into the space when they ask.
Yeah, this reminds me of something I was thinking today, because one of the amazing women who are always watching this, she was asking, do Black women really have this much pain? You know, because a lot of the conversation we're talking about trauma, about all these deep layers of pain that we have. And for a lot of people, I think they've just been, their eyes have been opened to how much they actually carry so much tension in their body, so much pain, so much unresolved emotions, stories, and perceptions. And so I've been thinking about that question. I was like, I want us to come and explore that, and explore it from the idea that part of the journey of healing is accepting where you are, and knowing that wherever you are is where it's perfect, it's where you're supposed to be. Because there's also, because I felt like that question was asking that, oh my God, there's so much to do, would we accomplish it? And my entire thought was, but that's the mission, that's the soul mission, that's the agreement to go through all that trauma. And the journey itself, the pain itself, it's purposeful, divine, even if it doesn't feel like it when you're within it, you know. So as you're speaking about, like, just being grounded in your own journey, to figure it out, to allow your soul to move through this ebb and flow of pain and rest and healing and whatever else comes up in your journey of confusion and not confusion. It's important to also be here, be in the journey, you know?
True. I love what you say. Pain is divine. You know, if I had not been through pain or been through what I've been, I don't think I'd be able to be the healer that I am today, because I see my patients mirror my pain. And because some of the pain I've been through it, I'm able to speak to that. But, you know, when you talk about feminine pain, for me, I don't think it's that simple. Because we live with the feminine and the masculine within ourselves. And sometimes it depends on what we need to call on. You know, I'm a Mkulu because my guiding ancestor is male. And going through the process of initiation and living my everyday life, sometimes the pain I feel is not mine as Taz. It's his pain that I'm feeling. So how do I call upon that masculine and heal that pain, so that in my femininity, when I call upon that masculine pain to fight for my patients, you know, when I'm protecting them, how does that come together? And you're right, we need to take ourselves where we are. We are hurt from generations and generations of denying who we are. So we can't be perfect today, and we can't create healing conditions through being perfect. We need to be able to tap into that pain without allowing the pain to consume us. And for me, two simple shortcuts: affirmations. Affirmations are a charm. You trick your body into thinking that you're more powerful because of what you've been through. So you gently remind yourself every day, I am powerful, I am divine, everything is working out as it's supposed to, you know, and then that allows you every time to keep moving yourself forward. I also use a simple trick. I love using cards. you know, after every partner, after every prayer, because sometimes I cannot access what I need to access. So I draw 3 cards to see where I need to go. Then you allow yourself to step outside of yourself and outside of your pain to see what the bigger mission is for the world. Because, you know, as we call ourselves pain, as we live in our pain, as we experience pain, which we'll always experience in our daily lives, we can't sit too long in it. We need to allow ourselves time to grieve. Yes, there's a lot that's happening in the world. You know, the divine feminine is raped. You know, the divine feminine is ignored, even in workplaces. I mean, we have to work 20 times harder to get through it. You know, I remember I felt I had to be the most educated person in there to get a quota of what every other white male was getting, you know, in the workplace. But I was okay with putting in the work. But what was that doing to my spirit, that other people don't have to work as hard? And because I embody the female and a black body, then I must do 1, 2, 3 more. That also kills the spirit. So we need to have tools that allow us to step outside of ourselves and outside of our pain, so that we're able to keep pushing through. And spirit has a lot of those tools, in sitting in stillness, in saying affirmations, in reminding ourselves of our divinity, and using other external sources and other people's opinions to really see who we are, so that we can recall our divinity and not just sit in that feminine pain that we have. And we are never just feminine and we're never just masculine. We live with both tensions, because when we need to call up the aggressor in terms of what we need to fight for ourselves, for our spirit, for who we are, we call on the masculine. When we need to nurture, we call upon the feminine, right? And when it's broken, we can move ourselves along. And we must never underestimate the role of psychologists, the role of aunts, the role of sisters, the role of going out and just throwing your hair back, so that you allow yourself to come to yourself. The worst thing you can do is sit in your pain and close yourself from the world, because you're also robbing the world of your greatness and what you can give them.
Yeah. So that's the idea, to move, to be with both, you know, healing and
Yes.
healing life, you know, looking at the pain, but also creating your life, creating however way you find
Absolutely.
to create it. Because I think that people think that if you are a healer, and because we're doing the summit on healing, we're saying that you are, you are to just always sit and be feeling all this pain and healing them and all of that. I have actually even found that sometimes I heal a pain by going to a festival, you know, whatever pain, whether it was just this this pain of me always being afraid of saying yes to my soul. I can sometimes heal it by saying yes to something outside myself, and that's how I come back to myself, to being, to claim my true intuitive needs and what I actually really want. And it can start with that.
Absolutely.
Go to the festival, hang out with your friends, get the ice cream. It's healing, you know. It's not just
the massage.
You know, yeah.
Yes. The Cleopatra bath, honey and milk with flowers, you know.
Yeah. Actually, the more you say yes to your soul, the more you heal, you know. What does your soul want? What is it calling you to do now, right now? Or what are you yearning of, experimenting, exploring, creating? That's the healing part. That's your soul calling you, that this here will heal you, you know? So it's really important for us to know that spirit is everywhere, you know? You access him here in stillness, but spirit is also, when you're playing with the baby, spirit is there, you know. When you're buying shoes with your girlfriend, you know, that exists. That spirit in motion, you know. So it was so important. I was like, I want people to know that even though we're saying we have a lot of pain and we must address it, it's important, vital, that we heal this pain, and we do it in a very active way of connecting with spirit, of, you know, finding healers and working with healers guides. We should also know that, in fact, you heal more by saying yes to your soul mission, by saying yes to your highest excitement. What is blissful for you, that is what will heal your soul. So the journey of healing is not one way.
No, it's not, And I love that as you say that, it reminds me of Marie Kondo's Spark Joy. What do you have in your home? Can you literally go through your home and touch everything that you have and say, this gives me joy? Is your home too cluttered? Is your home clean? Are you surrounding yourself with objects that are beautiful and things that you love? Does everything and everyone that you're inviting into your life spark joy? If they don't, then you need to take those things away from us, because we tend to re-traumatize ourselves as well by those feelings of being unworthy and by having environments that are not nurturing to spirit. I mean, look at simple things like color. What colors do you have? Do the colors depress you? Like they say, you can't have red in your bedroom because you're not going to be able to relax. Do you have colors in there that are relaxing? And these are things that spirit can speak to us as well. Different colors conjure different things. When we want peace, when we want balance, we know that we burn white candles. Are you aware of those little things? Are you educating yourself on healing? You've spoken a lot about the stuff that you do. You spoke about going to India, you spoke about yoga, you spoke about different ways of accessing spirit. So let's not limit who we are, because spirit is so unlimited. And it also doesn't mean when you follow spirit path, it also equals poverty. Because you can sit back and say, I am a spiritual child, so I don't need to work at 1, 2, 3. No, you still need to work, but it's just that you are spirit. Am I going in the right direction? And they teach you the right path. They will show you the right career. It's just that calling on spirit first before you do anything. It's not about now being lazy because you're guided by spirit and fine, you can use your intuition and tap into that. No, there's still an element of yourself that you need to present every day and offer yourself to say, spirit, how do I do your work today?
Because spirit is everywhere. It's also in your office. It's also, so it's so beautiful. I'm loving this conversation. It's really, really amazing. Exploring tension and how to live and exist with it, there is always a gift with where you are, whatever that is. And so your soul knows, your ancestors know the path, and all. I think what this summit is calling is to connect first there than using your mind, using what other people are saying. If you come back to that, to walk through the river of your life, it makes
can't go wrong.
Yeah, it makes the journey so much lighter. This has been true for me. It's so much lighter because
True. Very true. And from my own self, trust yourself first and the spirits that guide you. When you get lost and when you're ready for the next lesson, a teacher is going to show up for you. Why I'm comfortable with the tension in my life is, as I was in corporate and as I thought I was making my way into the world, and spirit was not a part of that. And then there was something that happened, and then now I've had to move to a spirit life. I have never lived much better than I am now. I am comfortable. I don't go to bed hungry. I am at peace. And what I ask for, as long as it's aligned to my soul mission, I have at my disposal. It's as if the universe is just ready to outpour everything to me. I mean, I have been able to take 3-week holiday, ways that I've never been able to do with the spirit work. We were able to travel to Europe and teach people around this. But it's always important that we sometimes when you teach it to the world, it makes it easier for those back home to accept the teachings. So find yourself first, find yourself within spirit, and everything.
Yes, we're back.
Okay, so make sure that you find yourself within spirit, within your own space that you're comfortable with. Create your own msamo, create your shrine where you go and you meet God, where you meet the spirits that guide you. make it beautiful, you know, create, put things in there that motivate you to want to wake up and be still, to want to wake up and connect before you get busy with the world. Make sure your home is a peaceful home, you know, where you are nurturing yourself and the people around you, because that's where the healing begins, at home. Then when you're ready, your teacher is going to show up to show you the next level. You might be your own teacher. Your mother might be your own teacher. If your family does not have the right resources, Spirit is going to show you the next person that is going to teach you, right? So I believe as a healer, I'm here mainly for my family. But because I have the capacity, I can help the world. So always look within your family first, because you share a bloodline, and find those healers and find those spaces to heal before you move on to the next person. But Spirit will show you where you need to go. And where you are confused and where you live with this tension, it's okay, because we come from a history of colonialism. We come from a history of being heard and of mixed messages. We've been told different narratives. Allow yourself to paradigm shift and to tell yourself new stories around your greatness that is grounded in the kings and queens that you come from. You know, your history is so rich. Find out where you come from. I know my king and my people built the great Zimbabwe ruins, right? Or they were not ruins, then the great Zimbabwe, there are Roshi people, right? But now a whole country is named after that building, you know, Zimbabwe being those stones that were built. So I am great. I live with greatness inside of me, but am I anchored? So let's allow ourselves to access that part of ourselves and not only chase that which we know and have been told to be great, like a career and whatnot. It's important, but it should be to supplement your soul mission and your spiritual life. So let your spirit life be the grounding force, whichever way you view it, whether it's through your Christianity, whether it's through you being open to whatever forms of healings they are, then build on that. You will see that your life will flow better, and that the tension will always be there, but you can live with it, and it's okay. And the more tension you have, the more you also have to teach other people.
Technology has told us it's time to end this powerful conversation with Gogo Sithole. I think what she just said is just the perfect way to end this conversation. I hope you guys enjoy it. Thank you so much. I will see you tomorrow.